Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai Ba'Shem Kodash. And I'm going to entitle this video, "This Book is Too Deep for You Christians." Anyway, I'm going to do this video based upon Luke 19, verse 43. And I'm just going to build on this particular precept. Anyway, you know what I'm going to do? Let me read it, and then what I want to do is I want to go to the commentary. And the reason why I've been doing that quite a bit, and I'm going to do it more often, is because you have people in the Christian community that come against us and say, we're just making it up. We really don't know the Bible. You guys are not Israelites. See, these monkey-minded Christians that say things such as that, especially you simple, boneheaded Nick Jakes out there. I wanted to say the NI word, but like the Jakes that follow, these simple-minded Jakes that follow vocab, you can see that the furniture is not all put in order, man. The lights are off, in the upper room, so to speak. Like I said, and I can do it, I can prove it right now. I can prove it right now, and I did prove it the other day. I'm going to prove it again. You Christians, the masses of you, the only ones that know scripture in the Christian community are the ones that, spent a number of years going through the ranks of the theological cemeteries. And they don't even know the scriptures. I said this a while back. I said to vocab, I said, you should get a good lawyer, a good team of lawyers, and sue that theological seminary that you attended, wasted all that money. Because you, at the end of the day, you don't know what the hell is going on, man. You don't know what the hell is going on. And you come against us and you get embarrassed. But anyway, that's a trained scholar, I would say. He knows a little something. But when it comes to understanding the whole book, you come short. And that goes for all of you in the Christian community. I'm focusing on the trained Christians, the doctors, the ones with the degrees, the ones that the professors in these various theological cemeteries. You don't know what's going on. So if you don't know what's going on, you former slaves you're clueless. You're completely clueless. You don't know what the hell is going on. Because if you did know the scriptures, you would say, you know what? They're right. Those are the Israelites. The people on that 12 tribe sign are definitely the Israelites. It doesn't fit the small hats at all. Doesn't fit the small hats. Them being over there in prophecy, them being over there in the land of Israel is not a fulfillment of the Israelites coming back. First of all, the scriptures speak about the whole nation coming together. That's in Ezekiel 37, Isaiah 19. Just to name a few scriptures. There's many prophecy on the return of the Israelites, national Israel, the sons of Israel, returning back to the land of Israel. It says in Isaiah 2, verse 2, and also I believe that's Micah 2, verse 4, if I'm not mistaken. You can check me on that, but my mind is on Isaiah 2. It speaks about the establishment of the children of the Most High. and that there'll be no more wars. There's a major war going on in over there in the region of this earth called Russia, the Ukraine, and there's a backstory to that. You know, every person in the media, whether it be radio, whether it be Karen Hunter or what's this guy? I always forget his name. Madison. I forget his first name. You know, you got these Jakes out, Roland Martin. This the CNN, Fox, they all get a memo as to what they can say and what they can't say in the news, because it's all one-sided. All right, not that I'm taking any sides. That's just a fulfillment of prophecy. That's going to lead to the war of Armageddon. That's going to lead to the troops converging, what's called Jehoshaphat, which is the Lord's Yahweh's judgment. Revelation 20:7. Okay, it speaks about they encamp, they encamped around the camp of the saints. Merely paraphrasing. And what's called a cauldron. You know, let me do this before I get into this. And I'm gonna say this here, right? It says, for the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies. So first of all, you want to stump a Christian that thinks he knows something, especially a boneheaded Jake. Who are the enemies, right? Specifically in this verse right here, Luke 19:43. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies, what day is it talking about? Give me a date. Who are the enemies? Shall cast a trench about thee. What does that mean? Cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side. You know what? Let me start at the 40. I'm gonna read this and then I'll change gears. Anyway, it says Luke, and this is part of our history. In order for you to truly understand the scriptures, during the time, especially during the time of the Messiah, you have to understand how the scriptures or that time related to the Roman rulership when they took us over. John the Baptist came on the scene, and when he was born, and our Lord was born, that was during the time period of the Roman occupation, Matthew 11. So when you read these scriptures, you have to have some type of knowledge of the Roman Empire as it relates to Palestine, the land of Israel. And like I said, you Negroes that go to church, if that, all you got to do, any Jake that roll up on you, including Edomites, just go to this scripture right here, tell them to read it, or you can read it for them, and just ask them what it means. What day did it happen? For the days shall come, or the days, what time period is it talking about? Shall come upon thee that thine enemies. Who are the enemies? You know what they're going to say? The Antichrist. It's the Antichrist. These, you know what we have proven? We've proven that you Christians out there, you are fucking clueless. You're clueless. And that includes a vocab, no class Malone. He was asked to, come on, man. Any of you simple-minded bird brains Negroes that follow this clown, you're gonna go down with this clown. Anyway, what did I say I was gonna do? Okay, let me read this again. And then I'm gonna go on the commentaries where these Edomite scholars give you their commentary about, you can go to any precept in the scriptures, not the Apocrypha. They're going to give you the runaround on the Apocrypha. Some of them may touch on the Apocrypha. A lot of them Christian scholars, the top scholars, I've gone through that commentary, and they'll mention precepts in the Apocrypha. So guess what? That shows you that part of their studies is is from the book of the Apocrypha, which the King James, the original King James, part of that book was comprised of all the books, 66 books, and I believe the number of the Apocrypha books are 14, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can look it up, put it in there. But anyway, that's the original book. But that's why you see us with you'll see us like with the regular Bible, then you see us with a separate book, which is the Apocrypha. Now I do have a King James Bible in Old English, that in that particular book is the Apocrypha. Okay, the Apocrypha is written in that book. All right. Anyway, let me read this. Luke, because now you got to understand history. Now you got to understand history. Now you brothers and sisters, some of you sisters that have been following us for a number of years, you understand that you gotta understand some of that history, and part of the look, when we go back to the time of the Maccabees, right? You got to understand some Greek history, man, because the Greeks occupied our land. It speaks about the he-goat in Daniel the 8th chapter. You will not understand what would Christians say? Who's the he-goat in Daniel 8? What do you think they're going to say? It's the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. Bunch of dummies. And this shit is it's an embarrassment, man, to you Christians, you weak ass Christians. That's why you got to send your top scholars to deal with us. You just can't send an average, everyday Christian. You got to send your top scholars. Anyway, let me stop ranting and let me just read this and let me see where the Spirit takes me. It says, Luke 19, verse 41, and when he was come near, this includes a lot of Israelites out there. You got Israelites with the sign, 12 tribe sign with the fringes. You ask them about this. A lot of them won't understand it either. I'm going to throw a question at you. When our Lord said, the abomination that maketh desolate enter in the holy place, then flee ye into the mountains. As spoken of by Daniel, then flee ye into the mountains. What did that mean? What did the Lord mean by that? And where is that in the book of Daniel? So let me read this. Luke 19, verse 41. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. I believe that's also, if I'm not mistaken, in John 11:34, I believe it is 35. Somebody can put it in, I'm not going to look for it. It said it's the shortest verse in the scriptures. And he said, Jesus wept, which Yahushua wept. So why did he weep? Well, why did he weep right here? 41st verse again. Because he was the son of the Most High. He was a prophet. When I say prophet, meaning he said things that are going to happen in the future. He was a Messiah. And when he was come near, our Lord came near, he beheld the city, which is Jerusalem, and wept over it, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. What is hid from the Israelites' eyes? The fact that the Romans were going to come and kill them. And that shows you the brutal nature of an Edomite. And that them Roman armies that was going in there killing, maiming, killing kids. They did that back. Well, it wasn't the Roman army. It was the Herodian Herod's personal army, which a lot of them were probably Edomite Roman soldiers, and they killed them babies. They don't care about Jake. They don't care about Jake. It says, for the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies. So like I said, as a Christian, what does this mean? 43rd verse, Luke 19, verse 43. For the days shall come. What days is it talking about? What time period? Well, you got to read on, brother. You got to read on. Okay, I'll read on. That thine enemies, what does that mean? That's talking about the Antichrist. And he getting ready to come. He's gonna be wearing a blue 3-piece Brook Brothers suit. And if you shave his head, there's 666 on the top of his head. See, that's how we know. All right. Okay, dumbass. For the day shall come upon thee. They don't know the day. The day is 70 AD, or the time period is 70 AD. Actually, it started from 66 during the time period of Nero, Trump. I believe he's Trump. I mean, I believe Nero came back as Trump. So we're talking about a span of 7 years. On that whole 7-year tribulation period that the Christians talk about based upon Daniel the 9th chapter, they're looking for it to happen. And in the middle of 3.5 years, then the Antichrist, and we're going to be raptured. These Christians are fucking clueless. They're goddamn clueless, man. Let me read again. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee. What does that mean? They don't know. And compass thee round and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground. What does that mean? Meaning he's gonna lay you out. You know, nigga, you keep talking shit, I'm gonna lay your ass out. Meaning you're gonna get hit and you're gonna go down and you're gonna be equal with the ground. That means that's parable talk for hip talk for I'm gonna kill you. After I get finished of you, you're gonna be even with the ground. And thy children within thee, because so these Edomites, these Romans, they don't give a damn. That's in Deuteronomy the 28th chapter. They don't care about the old or the young or the babies. That's why we call them a race of devils. And the world is waking up to these devils. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another. They're going to destroy the wall, because ultimately they put a wall around. And we're going to read that in the commentary. Because thou knowest not the time of thy what? Visitation. This is going to happen to you because you ain't up on, your eye. Let me go back to this. Until I 42nd verse, saying, if thou had known what? This right here. When the Romans are going to come in. Even thou, at least in this thy day, in this time that you're living, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. Now they are hid from thy eyes is talking about you don't know that in like 40 some odd years, the Romans is going to come to kill you. And the way they're going to do it is they're going to close you in so nothing can come in and nothing can go out. So let me look this up. Let me put in the cauldron. If I can spell it, cauldron. Okay, I think this is it. Cauldron definition. Cauldron in war. Let's see what happens. Cauldron in war definition. Let's see what happens. Okay, this is what I want. Cauldron or kettle. Russian. Kotiel or Kotiel. I hope I'm saying it right. A very large strategic level concentration of trapped enemy forces. Let me read that again. Cauldron or kettle. What do you do with an actual kettle or cauldron? There's a big pot and you cook food in it. You slow cook the food. So now, if you go into the, I gave her a video. What I'll do is I'll put it in the description box of this video so you can watch it. I was watching it again with this guy, Coach Red Pill. He was a guest on Fresh and Fit, and he went into the whole scenario of this war and what's really going on. Like I said, there's a backstory to this, you know? Let me see what my time is at. Anyway, it says cauldron or kettle. So in military terms, a very large strategic level concentration of trapped enemy forces, meaning you circled them. Let me look at this. Okay, what happens when an army is encircled, which is a cauldron, because a cauldron is like it's a big pot, like a circle. And you put the meat in there, the vegetables and so forth, the herbs, the broth, and then you have a fire going under it. And slowly the meat gets cooked. So guess what? That now what's happening right now is, like I said, you got to watch. I'm not going to go all into it. It's the key areas is Dumas in Russia. Dumas or Donbass, however you say it, I believe it's Dumas. You have the Ukrainian army that was getting ready to do something, and the Russians came in and was up on game about it and did something to them. What the Russians is doing right now is just a retaliation. They're doing something before these people do what they got to do. Because guess what? When the republics got broken up, going into the Russian history, that's a balkanization. When you have a big empire, as in the USSR, just like in America. Let's say they agree on cutting America in half. Everybody from the Midwest to the other West is Republicans. Everybody from the Midwest to the other East are Democrats. But then you're going to have other regions. So if the states have their own separate sovereign nation status, that means America is no more as a United States. So the same thing with Russia. The USSR was just the United States of the Russian republics, and it got broken up. So they had their own power. But guess what? When you have these breakups, you have people that are for the new government and people that love the old government, which is the former Soviet Union. Okay. So this thing that they're doing right now is called a cauldron, in which they're closing in on the Ukrainian military. They're gonna slaughter them, man. And I'm gonna say this, man. They're saying that I'm not gonna even say that. I'm going outside the subject. Get me going to something else. It says, what happens when an army is encircled or a cauldron takes place? And this is what happens, like in Africa, when you hunting down an animal. What you do is you circle the animal and then you close in and you beat on cans and you yell at them, and it spooks the animal, and the animal looks to run, but it can't because the animal is surrounded. Then they close in on the animal and they kill the animal. Well, now check this out. Sun Tzu, which that's a book. It's dedicated to the strategies of war. All right, I'm pretty sure Vladimir Putin, I'm pretty sure he read the book. I know if he didn't read the book, his generals under him read the book. What happens when an army is encircled? Sun Tzu, which is the book is The Art of War. If you put that in YouTube, you can actually listen to the book. It deals with military strategies. Sun Tzu and other military thinkers suggest that an army should be not completely encircled, but instead given some room to escape. Yeah, if you don't want to kill them, if you don't want a lot of casualties, you do it. But if you wanted what Titus did to the Jerusalem, he didn't want them to escape. It says, otherwise, the encircled army's men will lift their moral and fight to the death. Well, that's true too, but they want to fight to the death. It is better to have them consider the possibility of a retreat. So they made it known that they're not going to retreat. So guess what? That's a suicide mission. Okay, let me look at this one. It sounds interesting. What is the biggest encirclement or cauldron in war in history? Let's see. Oh my goodness. Wow. It says the first battle of Kiev or Kiev. We used to call it Kiev back in the day. The first battle of Kiev or Kiev was the German name for the operation that resulted in a very large encirclement. Did I say encirclement before? Encirclement of Soviet troops in the vicinity of Kiev or Kiev during World War II. And this war, when you watch it on, this is called a ground war. It's not a nuclear war. They're not using ICBM missiles and so forth and supersonic missiles. This is a ground war. So when you look at it on TV, and even newscasters said that, they said this reminds me of World War II or World War I, because it's a ground war. It says it is considered the largest encirclement of troops in history. The operation ran from 23 August to 26 September 1941 as part of Operation Barbarossa. Let me read that again. The first battle of Kiev or Kiev was the German name for the operation that resulted in a very large encirclement of Soviet troops in the vicinity of Kiev. Let me go a little bit more into it, since this is a history lesson right now. But this is what the Romans did to Jerusalem. It was called encirclement. Okay, let me see. Let me do it this way. All right, let me come over here. Just want to get a little history here. And history is vast. Okay, Battle of Kiev. The first Battle of Kiev was the German name for the operation that resulted in a huge encirclement of Soviet troops in the vicinity of Kiev during World War I. That's the same information. Okay, I want to get this one. 1943. When did the Germans leave Kiev or Kiev? Ukraine reunited under Soviet. Whoa, wait a minute. The Ukraine reunited under Soviet rule. After their victory over the Germans at the Battle of Stalingrad, I heard about that, in early 1943, the Soviets launched a counteroffensive westward. In mid 1943, the Germans began their slow retreat from the Ukraine, leaving wholesale destruction in their wake. In November, the Soviets re-entered Kiev. So this is an ongoing, this is not no new, Putin didn't just wake up and say, you know what, let's go to the Ukraine, take it over. The Ukraine is a former state of the USSR. All right, so that's an old ongoing war. Just like the Vietnam conflict was a continuation of the Korean conflict. See, but you don't know history, all right? And in order for you to know this, understand the scriptures, you got to understand that you got to go into the histories, and Christians don't do that. Their way out is talking about the Antichrist. So now let me come back. Where in the hell am I? Okay, let me read this again. And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. Why did he weep? Ask a Christian that. Why did the Lord weep over the city? Saying, 42nd verse, if thou hadst known, if you knew what was going on, even thou at least in thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, to keep thee in peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. What was hid from their eyes? The fact that the Romans were going to slaughter them. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. So now part of a cauldron is to have an opening so they can, what they do, they don't want to, wanted them to retreat. They wanted to destroy them as a people, like going back to Haman. And these are the same Romans that are back here today. This is Rome all over again. And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, within what? That the trench. It says, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knoweth not the time of thy visitation. You don't know the time when the Romans are going to come in. And this is let me do this. Let me do this here. Let me go to Daniel 9. I'll just read it. I'm not going to go all into it. 25th verse, Daniel 9, verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to rebuild. Now you got to go into the history of Cyrus and Xerxes, and how Cyrus had made a decree to give money to the kingdom of Judah to rebuild, Jerusalem again. And he had long died. So they brought this argument up, and they had to go to the records, because they kept records back there that yes, Cyrus, so they had to honor Cyrus. So they gave him the finances to rebuild the place. That's his whole thing about the other nations round about saying we worship your same God. And then they said, nope, we're building for us. This is not for you. That hasn't changed. So they gave him a hard time, like Vocab is doing. And other Christians, mainly Vocab, Messiah the Prince, he might be Haman. Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks. 7 weeks, which I'm not going to go into it. I know what it is. I'm not going to go into the 7 weeks. And 2 weeks, the street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous time. Even in troublous time, as those other nations wanted to build with us. So that's what that's talking about. I'm not going to go all into the numbers. It says Daniel 9 verse 26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. So you do the math, the Messiah being cut off is who? Our Lord. We're talking how many years? I think the math is 490, something like that, but I got to go in. I hadn't gone into this in a while. We had did videos on this, but not for himself. The Messiah didn't die for himself. Ultimately, he did die for himself because he died for the sins of his past life, but he died for the sons of Israel, starting with the elect. And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city. Who's that talking about? The enemies. And the sanctuary, that's talking about during the time of Titus. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. What does it mean, shall be with a flood? Meaning they're gonna come in, their armies are gonna be come so fast, it's gonna be like a flood, but it's gonna be a flood of the military. And unto the end of the war, 70 AD, the desolations are determined. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, and in the which represents 7 years. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, with the abomination of desolation entering into the holy place. As Daniel said, that's what it's talking about. 78 during the time period of 70 AD. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. Make what desolate? The temple. That famous, the Arch of Titus, where they have the people sacking the temple for the riches, even unto the consummation, and that determination shall be poured upon the desolate. That determination shall be poured upon the desolate is us. We're going to be desolated, if that's a word. Let me look up the word consumption. So we're going into some history and prophecy. Pull out a couple of words. Kala. Completion, termination, full, and complete destruction. In other words, they're gonna tear shit up, which they did. They had dead bodies laying out there of Israelites, babies, and before that they starved them out. So a lot of them died of starvation, and they would commit the act of cannibalism. They had to. That wasn't the only time it happened. It happened in previous history of Israel, but that's a fulfillment of Luke and Daniel 9 and Deuteronomy 28. You can start around the 50th verse and read down. It said they shall eat them secretly in the siege. That's talking about Rome. Okay, so now where am I? I'm a little all over the place, so bear with me. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the commentary. Now I'm going to go into the commentary. You know me, I like to go into a lot of prophecy and a lot of history. And you can't understand prophecy unless you understand some history too. You're forced to go into the history. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, Luke 19, verse 43. And I was surprised at what these commenters had to say, these so-called Bible experts. A lot of times they're on point. So when people say, oh, you're just making it up, you know, you got to go to a theological cemetery to really learn. I said, wait a minute, I'm going to pull out information from top Christian white scholars that's going to say the same thing we say. So you can't say that we're crazy. And this is another thing that you devils do. The only thing you look at a video to see if we call you the devil or whatever, or we gonna put you into slavery. They don't listen to everything. They don't, man. Sometimes we just teach it, man. Sometimes we might go into the subject of the UFOs. Sometimes we might just go into Armageddon. We go into a lot of different subjects. But all Esau sees is, oh, you call me the devil and you're a hate group. Everybody's a fucking hate group, man. Russia's a hate group. Ukraine is a hate group. They're chopping each other's heads off, man. Blowing each other's brains out. Fuck you mean, man. Luke 19, verse 43. For the day shall come upon thee that, and I'm gonna say this too. You got a lot of guys, there's levels to this thing. There's levels to prophethood. You got a lot of guys in Israel, they won't teach nothing. You go to certain pages, there's a lot of gobbledygook. There's a lot of bullshit, you know? It's no real substance of learning. When you come to like my page and other page, I can name names. You go to some of these pages of these guys in GMS, and it should be all of them. If you go to my page, if you go to any other GMS or the brothers that are in there, from the apostles to the bishops to the elders to the, I'm talking, when I say the elders, I'm saying the ones that put in, the veterans that put in for 14, 15 years. They're veterans now, man. They don't need to call us, oh brother, could you break this down? They got it. And if they don't got it, they can search it out. All right. So if you go to any of, and it should be all GMS members among the men, you should all have sites and you should all be putting up videos on the regular, because people are coming to learn, man. People are coming to learn. So when you come to my page, for example, you're gonna get a lot of prophecy. You're gonna get some history. You know, you're gonna get a lot of videos where I see another video and I do a re-up on it. You know, I like to expound upon a subject that the brother made, or Vocab did a video, and I'm gonna expound upon that and show him that he's off. Anyway, let me read this. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies, so they meaning time period, enemies mean enemies, shall cast a trench about thee. And by the way, the word trench goes back, matter of fact, I'm gonna prove it. I'm not gonna speak on it, I'm gonna prove it. Okay, 43. Okay, let me look up the word trench. And they fixing to set up a trench on us again. Now, what is that word there? Let me let you hear it.
Strong's G 5482, Karax. Karax.
What is the root word of karagma? Karax. It says from karaso, to sharpen to a point, akin to, through the idea of sketching. To sharpen to a point. So what is that point? The delivery system for the MotB. Another thing, I don't understand, you other camps out there and the people that follow these other camps, you should be ashamed of yourself. If you can't see, here it is, March 10th, 2022, year of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, turning up. If you can't see at this point in time that Revelation 13, 16 and 17 You start the 15th verse, go to the 18th verse. If you can't see that it's what we've been saying, what it is, then guess what? The Most High blinded you on that. So you're guilty of taking away from the scriptures. And then when you take away from the scriptures, you're adding to the scriptures. So you're gonna be embarrassed, man. Because what did they do? As soon as this war came in, right? Over there in Russia, the day before the war, they were building up to it. Are they gonna attack? We're gonna have meetings. So the day that they had the war, the day before that, they were talking about the Crown Vic, right? As soon as the war, that shit went out, it's like it never even existed. It just packed up. It just packed up and left. It just went to Mars somewhere. It's gonna mess with the aliens on Mars some damn where. Can't you people get it? You don't get it. You don't get it that you're getting played. And then Apostle Ramlab, he did a video going into this, I'll say decree, it is decree, about the banks and the money institutions looking into, what's the acronym? What is it? CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. He said you have from 2 months to, what did he say? To 6 months. He said you have, I believe he said from 60 days to 180 days to come, to get into it, because we're going to sit down and we're going to change the system. And when they change that money system over to all digital, you can watch the video that Apostle Ramlab did, because I was listening to it in the news before he did the video, and I said, I got to do a video on it. But then he wound up doing the video. So I said, nah, I don't got to do a video on it, but I'll build on it, because there's going to be a lot of talk on that subject. But anyway, when they set up that digital, that CBDC system, those paper dollars are going to be, you'll use them to wipe your ass with. There's a change. This is the global reset. The gas prices are going up because they want you to not use, they want to slowly wean you off of the combustion engine so you can get electrical cars. But who can afford it? The economy is all messed up. If there's any time for somebody to get a stimulus, it's right now. And this economy got messed up through the charagma, which was set up by the authorities behind the scenes. And you average Jakes, you lining up getting the juicy juice. And that's why the Most High gonna leave you here. He's gonna leave you here. If you take that charagma, you're gonna get the first thing you're gonna experience. Everything gonna be cool. You're gonna be bragging about it, talking about it. Your celebrities, they're gonna have the celebrities talking about it, and you'll have a certain amount of Jakes that are gonna take it. And what's gonna happen is, pursuant to Revelation 16, where you put the charagma at, is gonna go, your hand is gonna go develop cancer. Read it. Read it, Richard. Inside joke. I had to say that. But anyway, so there's going to be a trench about the again, but this time it's going to be in your hand on your forehead. It says a pale, a stake, a palisade or rampant, pales between each earth, which earth, stone, trees, and that's also called an embankment. And the scriptures call it a bank. And timbers are heaped and packed together, because you have this dowel of wood that's sharpened, that's cut at a point. The stake that you put in Dracula's heart, it ain't gonna go in his heart if you don't cut it from the side and make it into a point. And they stick that in there, and then they put a actual build a wall around that. That's what the Romans did. That's what the Romans did. Okay, so they're gonna do it again. They're gonna build a trench in you this time. So now You know what I got to do? Let me go to, bear with me for a minute. Let me see if I remember it, so I don't got to look for it. War, let me try it this way. War of the Jews, which is Josephus 6. Let's see what happens. Okay, I think I got it. Let's see if I got it. I don't want that. Let me come back. Oh man. I want to go right to the point. Let me put in the word blank. Let's see what happens. Okay, I believe I got it. Okay, I do have it. I'm jumping the gun. Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to show you something because Josephus lived, and he was like a news reporter. He was writing down the history. He actually saw it, and he was in good with the Titus and Vespasian. He was a slave under them. That name Josephus is a great Greco-Roman name that was given to him. His actual name was Mathathawa, from the tribe of Judah. Let me just read this. I wanted to go into the commentary just to show you, as a matter of fact, let me do this. Let me read a little commentary. And I always go to Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges, right? And they straight to the point. It says, 43rd verse, Luke 19:43, often used of troublous times, which is the time of Jacob's trouble. The time of Jacob's trouble is getting ready to come. Like the Latin tempora, shall cast a trench about thee, rather shall surround thee with a palisade. A palisade is wood fences in the old days, back in Rome. They would take wood, cut down trees. They would take the wood, they would cut it. They would build dirt and stone, and they would stick it in there so it can hold. All right? It says, let me finish reading, then I'm going to go through these precepts. Rather shall surround thee with a palisade, literally fulfilled 40 years after, 40 years afterwards. Why did they say 40 years afterwards? Because the Lord made the prophecy 40 years ago, and 30 AD. This was 70 AD. At the siege of Jerusalem, so they got it. These Edomite scholars. So when somebody says you don't know what you're talking about, you didn't go to seminary school, but I say, well, wait a minute. Your professors and your experts on the Bible agree with what we say. When Titus, it says, when Titus surrounded the city first with a palisaded mound, Valum and Agar, and then with a wall of masonry. So that's what this means. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee. That's like the skeleton of a wall before you put the mortar stones and so forth, about thee, and compass thee round and keep thee in on every side. Because Jerusalem had a great wall around it, so they put a wall around the wall. And they said they did it in, they were moving. I believe they did it in 3 days. But they sent, I don't know the amount of legions that they sent, but these Roman soldiers were working so hard that they were getting sick. They were getting sick to the point of death. And then when they went to fight the Israelites, the men, they were like, fuck it, we're gonna die anyway, so let's go out, you know, killing some of these Romans. And this is all in the scriptures, man. All in the scriptures. Now the Lord could have came down and stopped everything, right? Well, the scriptures say, what is that? Exodus 15:3. The Lord is a man of war, the Lord is his name. He's about war. He sets up the wars. And these are all fulfillment of prophecies. And see, you got guys that come into this truth and they fall off. You know why they fall off? Because the book doesn't resonate with them. They read the book because they don't go and teach, they don't go and study, they don't get deeper. There's levels to this thing. You got to get deeper into this. You got to understand, in order for you to understand prophecy, you have to know that particular history at that time. Go back to Daniel, you have to know a little bit of history of the Babylonians and the customs at that time. Come up to the Greeks, Antiochus Epiphanes, Alexander the Greek. What I found out about Alexander the Greek, he didn't mess with the Israelites. He gave them gifts. He was kissing their asses. He didn't tax them, and he spoke and read Hebrew because he was raised up by Aristotle, which was a Jake. The 7 sages, going back to Greek history, these were Jakes, man. The guy that wrote the play Troy, you know, the movie Troy with this guy, Brad Pitt, that was written by a Jake, a big-nosed Jake named Homer. So y'all don't know that because you don't study. And then you fall off because the book doesn't, it's just a book, it's just words. But you got to get into the spirit of this book. It says, shall cast a trench about thee, rather shall surround thee with a palisade. Let me see, Isaiah. I'm not going to read all of these. Literally fulfilled 40 years afterwards, which is 70 AD, at the siege of Jerusalem. So you got these top Christian scholars, professors, and what are historians that agree with us. So we're not crazy. We're not just opening up the scriptures and just making shit up. We go into the history, man, of those particular times. See, this is why you got these numbskulls, Christians, that they'll say, well, the Gentiles could be saved too. And they'll bring out scriptures, Ephesians, what is that, 2 and 11 or whatever, Romans 11, all kind of scriptures on the word Gentiles, right? Matter of fact, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. Let me go to that. Let me put in the word Gentiles. I just want to go to the New Testament. Okay, 129 times and 121 verses. But we're going to go right to the New Testament. Okay, Luke 2, verse 32, a light to lighten the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel. The Gentiles are Israelites. Didn't know that they were Israelites at the time. Cornelius is a perfect example. Now this right here, Luke 18, verse 32, Gentiles right here is talking about the actual nations, the Romans. I'm just looking at some of these words here. Okay, Acts 11, verse 1. And the apostles and brethren that were in Judea, Yahweh, heard that the Gentiles, which were Israelites, had also received the word of the Most High. Acts 10, verse 45. And they of the circumcision, which believed, were astonished, as many as came with Peter, because that on the Gentiles, Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites. When you go to the first verse, it speaks about Cornelius. He was an Israelite whose parents, following the Greco-Roman way. Same thing with Timothy. His father was a Greek, meaning he was an Israelite in the Greek way of life. Like you have your fathers, right? Your fathers and your grandfathers, they were World War II. They fought in the war, and they had they might have had an American flag in the room. They might have a picture of them with their fatigues on, and they watch the football, the playoffs, NBA playoffs, the Super Bowl, and they don't have a beard on their face. If you notice now, you have Jake with beard. That's the young Jakes. A lot of them Simeonites and a lot of Jakes. The new thing is having a full-size beard. That's what the women are attracted to now. That and your money. It says because that on the Gentiles, Israelites, didn't know that they were Israelites, also was poured out the gift of the Holy Spirit. So they'll bring up precepts like this. They'll bring up precepts like this. This is the main one that they go to. Y'all, I'm singing to the choir. Ephesians 2, verse 11. Wherefore, remember that ye being in time past Gentiles, so they'll say that's talking about us. See the Gentiles, we're the Gentiles in the flesh, who were called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcised in the flesh made by hands. So they'll say that that's talking about the Gentiles. Galatians 3, verse 14, that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Yahweh Shai. So that's their go-to scriptures. See, we part of it too. So you can't, Let me read that again. That the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles, the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites. Timothy, Cornelius, just to name two. Through Yahweh Shai Mashiach, that we might receive the promise. Who was the promise given to? To Abraham. The promise that was given to Abraham was for the Israelites, not the other nations. Of the Spirit through what? Through faith. That's all I want to read on that. Anyway, let me come back over here. Okay, so it says, keep thee in on every side. The blockade established was terribly rigid, was so terribly rigid that myriads of the Jewish perish of starvation because they couldn't come in and they couldn't go out. Bear with me for a minute. I was reading some more. See, now the computer's acting up. The demons don't want this truth to come out. See, it's acting up. Okay, let me just read here. You can see this. It says, shall cast a trench about thee. The Greek substantive means primarily a stake. A stake, meaning a palisade. Then the stockade or palisade by which the camp of a what? Besieging army, which are the Romans, was defended. Then the earthwork upon which the stockades was fixed, meaning dirt stone that they gathered together, and they stuck the palisade in there. Like I said, they're going to put his palisade in Jake in this time, which is the charagma. See what's going on? Now that, come on, man. Let me go back here. Luke 19. We have 43. Demons don't want you to get this truth. Okay, Eliot's commentary. The day shall come upon thee. We again come upon a cluster of words peculiar as far as the New Testament is concerned to St. Luke and belonging to the higher form of historical composition. So they're talking about you got to go into the history. Shall cast a trench about thee. The Greek substantive means primarily a stake, palisade, then the stockade or palisade by which the camp of a besieging army, the Romans, 70 AD, was defended. Then the earthwork upon which the stockade was fixed. So that means they built a wall around you. In the latter case, of course, a trench was implied, but the word meant embankment rather than the excavation, because they were building a wall. They started with a wooden fence, then they put stones around it. The better MSS, I don't know what that means, gives for cast a verb which more distinctly conveys the idea of an encampment. Encampment. We know what encampment means. Let me see where else did I go. What else did I go through? Bear with me for a minute. Let me go right to the point. So you can read it. Somebody got Bond's notes on the Bible. It says right here, for the day shall come. This took place under Titus. They're right on that. The Roman general, 70 AD, about 30 years after this was spoken by the Lord, because he prophesied this was going to happen. Then you got Israelites that'll read Luke 19, Luke 21, Matthew 24. Matthew 24, for example, Luke 21 is talking about two events, 70 AD and the time of Jacob's trouble. But you know what? I'm not going to read anymore. I'm going to get ready to close it. So let me go to Josephus. Okay, this is Josephus, War of the Jews, chapter 6, verse 2. I mean, if you got time, you can read the whole thing. It says, and now the banks were finished. Banks meaning what? Meaning the trench with the wall built around it, so no Jay can come in, neither any go out. And that's also in the scriptures. And now the banks were finished. They afforded a foundation for fear, both to the Romans and to the Jews. For the Jews expected that the city would be taken unless they could burn those banks. So Jake was trying to burn their way out, as did the Romans expect that if these were once burnt down, they should never be able to take it. For there was a mighty scarcity of materials, woods, all right? And the bodies of the soldiers began to fail. The Romans, they were, like I said, I forget where I read that in the history, but it took them 3 days. So Titus said, look, build that wall. I want this built up around the clock. So a lot of these soldiers were getting weak and they were getting sick. began to fail with such hard labors. This is on the side of the Romans, as did their souls faint with so many instances of ill success. So some of them died. That was that demonic spirit that was on Titus. It said, nay, and the top general was this guy, Alexander, Tiberius, Julius, Tiberius, Alexander, which he was a Jake that was raised up as a Jake out of Alexandria, Egypt. He was from an Israelite family, but he said, nah, I want to be on the Roman side. I want to kill niggas for the Romans. But he knew he was an Israelite. Probably had a beard too. Probably was wearing fringes, that demon. And I believe that this guy, the Secretary of Defense of the US, that Jake, that big Jake, I believe that's him. It says, nay, the very calamities themselves that were in the city proved the greater discouragement to the Romans than to those within the city. Like the Roman soldiers, they were freaking out, man. They were getting sick, they were dying. For they found stratagems of the enemy, their engines to the fierceness, to the firmness of their wall, and their closest fights to the boldness of their attacks. So Jake got bold. They said, look, man, we're going to take these demons down. And because they were going to die anyway. And what was the greatest discouragement of all? They found the Jews courageous. They found the Jews, the Israelites, courageous souls to be superior to the multitude of the miseries they were under. Like they were starving, but they were going to fight. They were starving, man. It was Jake's inside the wall that died. They were burying them inside the wall because no food could come in. They were under by their sedition, their famine, and the war itself, in so much that they were ready to imagine that the violence of their attacks was invincible, and that the alacrity they showed, I looked that word up, I don't know every word there is, would not be discouraged by their calamities. In other words, we're starving, a lot of us are dropping dead, but we're gonna give them a fight. For what would not those be able to bear if they should be fortunate who turn their very misfortune to the improvement of their valors? Talking about Israelites. They got into that spirit. And the Most High is gonna, who shall rouse up Judah? Genesis 9. The Most High is gonna rouse up Judah. So all this nonsense that vocab be talking, well, that Revelation 13, 9, and 10 is not talking about actual slavery. Look, the Most High is going to put a fierce spirit on Jake, Micah 5 and 7 on down. What is that? Baruch, I believe that's Baruch 4. You can read that whole chapter. All right. And there's many precepts where the Most High going to put that spirit back on us, man. But not on the prophets. The Most High is going to give the prophets, they're not going to be fighting. They're not going to be out there fighting. They're going to be sitting back and watching the prophecies unfold. They said these considerations made the Romans to keep a stronger guard about their banks, that wall, than they formerly had done. They said, man, these people looking to kill us, man. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say, Shalom.